Hi everyone, it's Carissa. Today I wanted to show you the tubular cast-on, sometimes called the Italian cast-on. Now in a previous video we looked at the two-color tubular cast-on, but today we're going to focus on the one-color Italian or tubular cast-on. This creates a nice smooth edge, and you can see that the columns of knit stitches on the right side of the fabric simply roll over that cast-on edge and connect to the knit stitches on the wrong side of the fabric. This is also a very stretchy cast-on, which makes it ideal for things like cuff-down socks or the ribbing on a sleeve or the collar of a sweater. So let's take a look at how to do this. The first step of this cast-on is to measure out a long tail. We want that tail to be about 3 times as long as our cast-on is going to be wide. So say I want my piece of fabric to be about that wide, then I'm going to measure out 1, 2, 3 times, and this is where I am going to start my cast-on. Now you can put a slip knot here, and that would be totally fine. I like to just make a loop. So I'm going to move the tail of my yarn away from me, and the yarn that is connected to the ball will be closer to me. And I am going to start with the same sort of hand position as a standard long tail cast on. So I'm going to put my index finger and thumb under this strand of yarn and separate them. So the tail yarn is going over my finger and the ball of yarn is going over my thumb. Then I am going to use my other 3 fingers to hold on to both of those strands of yarn underneath, so it kind of looks like what I call the slingshot pose. Now I'm going to pick up my knitting needle, and again, you can make a slip knot here in the middle and put that on your needle, but I like to just make a loop. So I'm going to put my needle in the middle of that strand of yarn and use my thumb to wrap the yarn around the needle and just make a loop around it like that. That is going to count as our very first knit stitch cast on. The slip knot, if you made a slip knot there, would also count as your first knit stitch. Now to make a purl stitch, because we are going to be setting this up for knit 1, purl 1 ribbing, I am going to take my needle, I'm going to hold on to that loop so it doesn't go anywhere. Let me get this needle out of the way as well. I'm going to hold on to that loop so it doesn't go anywhere, and I'm going to bring the tip of my needle around the back behind both strands. Then I'm going to dip down and go underneath both strands of yarn to the front of my work. Then I'm going to come up in the front and snag that yarn that's on my thumb, and I will drag that back down under the strand of yarn that is on my finger. Then I will bring the needle back up to the middle to our starting position. Now I have cast on a second stitch there, and that is going to be a purl stitch. Now I'm going to hold on to that new stitch again so that it doesn't go anywhere, and now I'm going to make a knit stitch. So I'm going to do sort of the opposite of what I just did for a purl stitch. For a knit stitch, we're going to bring the needle to the front toward our body first. Then I'm going to dip down and go under that yarn that's on my thumb. I'll come up in the middle and around on top of the finger yarn and grab that yarn. Then I'm going to drag that forward underneath the thumb yarn, and then bring my needle back to the top, to the center, which is our starting position. Now I have cast on a knit stitch. So I have 3 stitches on my right hand needle here. Now let's repeat those 2 steps to alternate purl stitches and knit stitches. So I've just cast on a knit stitch. To do a purl, I'm going to swing around the back of my work, go underneath both strands, come up in the front and grab that thumb yarn, and then drag it back down under the finger yarn and back to our starting position. For a knit stitch, I'm going to swing around the front, go under the thumb yarn, come up in the middle, go around on top of the finger yarn and grab that, then drag it forward under the thumb yarn and back up to our starting position. Now I have 5 stitches on my needle, and if we look very closely, you can kind of see there's a purl bump at the base of the 2nd stitch and the 4th stitch. So those are our 2 purl stitches. So right now we've alternated knit, purl, knit, purl, knit. So time for another purl stitch. I'm going to hold on to my stitches so they don't slide off the needle, swing around the back, go under both strands, up in the front, down in the middle, and then up in the back again to cast on a purl stitch. And cast on a knit stitch, I'm going to swing around the front, go under the thumb yarn, up in the middle, down in the back to grab that finger yarn, and then drag it back under the thumb yarn and back to our starting position. So again, I'm going to alternate this until I have the appropriate number of stitches cast on. So far I have 2, 4, 6, 7 stitches, and I've just done a knit stitch. So I'm going to do a purl stitch, swing around the back, go under both strands, grab the thumb, and pull it under the finger yarn, and back to the top. For a knit stitch, swing around the front, under the thumb, up in the middle and grab the finger yarn, and pull it under the thumb yarn again, and back to the top. Around the back, under both, up in the front, down in the middle, up in the back. Around the front, under the one, up in the middle, down in the back, grab that yarn, under the thumb yarn, and back to our starting position. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 stitches. Cast on another purl stitch, so we're going to go under from the back, grab the front yarn, and pull it under the back yarn. And then for a knit stitch, we're going to go to the front, go under the thumb yarn, grab the finger yarn, and pull it under the thumb yarn again. Around the back, under both, grab the front, and pull it under. Around the front, under just the front yarn, up and grab the finger yarn, around, and back to the top. So around both from the back, grab the front yarn and pull it up. Around the front, grab the back yarn and pull it up. Around the back, grab the front yarn and pull it up. Around the front, grab the back yarn and pull it up. I'm going to finish casting on the rest of my stitches, and I'll meet you back here for the next step. Okay, I have finished casting on all of my stitches here, and I want to be sure to keep a hold of my yarn, because if I let go, you can see all of that gets really loose. That last stitch wants to fall off the needle. So I want to make sure that I'm keeping tension on those yarns for right now. Now this is a cast on that wants to spin itself around the needle, which can make it very difficult to join in the round without twisting your cast on. But luckily, we're going to work a couple of setup rows after this and then join after that, and those setup rows will sort of stabilize this cast on and make it a little more easy to work with. So I am going to not lose my tension on these strands. I'm just going to pinch that last stitch so it doesn't go anywhere. Then I'm going to turn my work and grab the other end of my circular needle. And I'm going to hold on to the tail now with my right hand to keep tension on that. And I still have the working yarn in my left hand. I am a continental knitter, but I will show you how to do this with the yarn in your right hand as well. So I'm going to work my first setup row. I'm going to alternate knit one stitch and then slip the next stitch with the yarn in front and alternate all across the row. So I'm going to insert into that first stitch and knit it. And then I'm going to bring the yarn to the front and simply slip the next stitch as if to purl. Bring the yarn to the back and knit one. Bring the yarn to the front, and I'm going to insert my needle as if to purl, but I'm just going to slip that off the left-hand needle. Yarn back to the back, knit one, yarn to the front, slip one. Yarn to the back, and if you hold your yarn in the right hand, this works the same way. I'm going to knit the next stitch, bring my yarn to the front between the needle tips, and slip the next stitch as if to purl. Bring my yarn to the back again between the needles, and knit one, yarn forward, slip one, yarn backward, knit one, yarn forward, slip one, yarn backward, and I'm going to work all the way across the row of my cast on, and this is setup row number 1. And I'll meet you at the end of this row. So I have just slipped my last stitch as if to purl, so I have completed setup row 1 all the way across, and now I am going to turn my work and I'm going to repeat that. So all of the stitches that got slipped on setup row 1 are now going to be knitted, and all of the stitches that were knitted on setup row 1 will be slipped on setup row 2. So it is worked exactly the same way as setup row 1. I'm going to knit the first stitch, which was a slip on the previous row. I'm going to bring my yarn forward, and I'm going to slip the stitch that I knitted on the previous row. Yarn backward and knit, yarn forward and slip, yarn backward and knit, yarn forward and slip. And with the right hand, knit, yarn forward, slip, yarn backward, knit, yarn forward, slip, yarn backward. And again, I'm going to work across setup row 1, alternating knit 1 and slip 1 with yarn in front, and I will meet you at the end. Now I have finished setup row 2, and you can see that I have a little bit of fabric built up now here under the needle. So if my cast on does get twisted around the needle, it's pretty easy to spot that twist and fix it. So now it'll be a lot easier to join this cast on to work in the round. And that's what I'm going to do next. So I'm going to find the halfway point of my cast on. There it is. And I'm going to slide my stitches onto the cord here. I'm going to sort of fold my cord in half and pull that loop out between those 2 stitches. And now you can see my stitches have gotten twisted, my cast on is twisted, so I want to make sure that all of that fabric that's built up below the needles stays below both needles, and on top I only see the live stitches. And now my yarn is connected, let's see, that's the tail. So my working yarn here is connected to this needle. So the first stitch on the other needle is where I want to start knitting when I start working in the round. So I'm going to pull out the needle that is attached, or where the ball of yarn is attached. I'm going to pull that needle out gently and then bring it around, and I'm going to start knitting into that stitch right there. And I want to make sure that my yarn is in between my two needles, coming up in between my front needle and my back needle. And now I'm going to start working on my ribbing. I will knit that first stitch without splitting the plies preferably. And then bring my yarn to the front and purl. Bring my yarn to the back and knit, yarn forward and purl. And then I'll continue in my ribbing, and this will become the cuff of my cuff down sock. So that is how we work a tubular or Italian cast on in a single color. I hope this video was helpful.